Welcome to Deeper. This is our episode on all things sex for 30 minutes. I'm Dr. Jenni, and this episode is brought to you by Adam and Eve. So for today's episode on Deeper, we are going to be talking about sex, stress, and the holidays. As the holidays come up, most of us experience stress. One of the things we typically experience is the other F word, family. Now, if you have an awesome family and you're so excited to go home, good for you. I truly am happy for you. Some of us have a little more stress when it comes to family. So, how do we navigate some of these hiccups when we have the holidays? First, let's talk about what stress is in the nervous system. When stress hits us, it's a whole dump of cortisol that makes us constrict and go into fight or flight. It activates our sympathetic nervous system. Here's a little cheat sheet on what I'm talking about. So I'm going to zoom in on the sympathetic nervous system right here, fight or flight. What happens when we fight or flee is we do this. If we're going to fight, we're going to go here. If we're going to flee, we're going to do this. And all our blood flow goes towards our core, right? It goes towards our core to preserve those key organs and keep us alive. So if all the blood flow is going to our key organs, guess where it's not going? Our genitals, because those are considered an extremity. So what happens when we're in fight or flight, back to this, come down to this bottom one, it promotes ejaculation and vaginal constriction, which is fine if we're aroused, but we don't want ejaculation or constriction before we get aroused. Otherwise, we ejaculate before the erection or right upon it, and we can't get anything in if it's a vagina. So we need to relax and move into our other part of our nervous system, our parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest. Rest and digest can be harder to accomplish if we feel stressed, right? Stress is the antidote to feeling restful, especially around the holidays. However, we're going to talk about preventive medicine using sex and symptom relief using sex. But let's talk about the parasympathetic nervous system one more time. So parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest. What it promotes over here is erection. Okay, so promotes erection of genitals. It also promotes the opening of the vagina. This cheat sheet doesn't have that on there, but basically if we're relaxed and we're surrendering, we have blood flow that goes to our entire body, and blood flow helps an erection happen. Blood flow helps a vagina get more bulbous and more juicy and more lubricated and tent up in the uterus and open up to receive. So it doesn't matter if you're playing man, man, woman, woman, man, woman, whatever gender you want to assign yourself. The genitals, which we all have, need to feel relaxed to encourage that blood flow to enjoy a good time. Now, some of us go, it's the holidays, it's stressful, forget sex. That is the last thing on my mind. That's the last thing I'm doing. It's not sexy to have any kind of erotic interaction when I'm home, maybe in my family's home, maybe in some Airbnb with a bunch of other families. Like, that's not what we're doing. So let's talk about sex as preventive medicine, and then we'll talk about what we can maybe do while we are at home, especially if we need that symptom relief. So sex as preventive medicine. Sex relaxes us, right? First, in order to have enjoyable sex, we need to get into a relaxed state of being. And after we have sex, especially if we have an orgasm, we release a bunch of wonderful, yummy hormones and chemicals in our body, like oxytocin and dopamine, that are like a wash of the brain to go, that was good, that was yummy, now I feel relaxed, I feel good, I feel bonded to myself. If it was sex with myself, I feel bonded to this other human. If you're having sex with another human, which, by the way, make sure you're choosy with that human, because you don't want to be bonded to somebody that, you might not want to be bonded to, so be selective, and we feel good. So having sex before you're going into a stressful situation can basically wash your body with all those yummy chemicals and hormones so that you feel good. This can be sex with yourself too, right? That is such good preventive medicine, to just feel good and then go into a stressful situation. So maybe the holidays are just about the office party and you have social anxiety going to the holiday party. Or maybe the holidays are about having stress because you got to go shopping and navigate crazy malls. Ugh. Although with Amazon, you could do it online. But you may still be stressed because you're like, I have so many presents to buy and I have no idea where to start. And maybe the holidays are about traveling and getting to the airport with all these people packed in there. There's lots of reasons we have stress. So we want to feel grounded and we want to feel good. And we might need to just have a little sex beforehand to make that happen. Okay. I hope I have encouraged you to have sex as preventive medicine, but now let's talk about we're in the midst of stress. Now, if you are stressed out because you're shopping at the mall, I would not suggest you go and find somewhere to have sex right then and there. Not the best choice, but you come home, you're in your home, in the living room, in the kitchen, in the bedroom, depends on your circumstances, if you have kids or roommates or neighbors right by. So be selective of where you have sex, but you get home or you get to a place that you can actually have some privacy and you're like, I am so stressed out and I can't even get an erection, I can't even get arousal, I can't even get my vaginal lubrication going because I am too stressed out. So what do you do in those moments, right? This is where we utilize lazy sex. Lazy sex is awesome. I have 2 kids, and when I was pregnant with both kids, and certainly for many months after, I had lots of lazy sex because you don't have a lot of energy and you don't have a lot of bandwidth and there's stress happening and there's fatigue happening and the holidays are just the same. So how do we have lazy sex? First, let's talk about lazy positions, and then I'm going to introduce you to a really interesting and different concept that really promotes a pleasurable and lazy time. So first, if you have the bandwidth to have sex, but you're still feeling lazy and you're still stressed out, you could be in a very comfortable, cuddled position and have sex from a spooning position. There you are, you're relaxed, you're breathing, you're cuddling, and you can kind of have a little sex. You can also do a scissor position where you face each other and you're kind of scissored in a way that allows your genitals to come together, but your heads are a little bit further apart, so you're scissored. And then you can have contact that way. If one of you is more stressed than the other, the more stressed person can just be laid out on their back, and the less stressed person can do more of the work in terms of being on top. This could be man on top, woman on top, whatever configuration you are in terms of your relationship. Lazier person is on the bottom, or more stressed out person is on the bottom, and more energized person can be on the top. So play with this as a positioning kind of musical chairs of options in terms of allowing yourself all that permission to be in contact and feel lazy. Because that intimacy, even if you don't reach orgasm, can feel really good and be like that wash of hormones and chemicals to relax us. It's, again, we're going for how do we access our parasympathetic nervous system, that rest and digest, while we have that stress and cortisol running through our system. We want to do the best we can to wash it away. Okay. Let's say intercourse is not an option. Maybe because that's not the set of genitals you have, maybe because it is outside your capacity, maybe because that is the last thing you want to do when you're in your family home or on some sort of vacation with other families, your own or others. So what can you do to connect? Let's first talk about stress again in terms of performance. A lot of people have stress with sex because they feel like they're on stage and that sex is a performance. This includes during the holidays, but it's pervasive. We get our sex education from Hollywood and porn, and both are performances. They're literally a screen giving a performance with paid actors to provide an experience, right? So maybe in Hollywood it's really PG oriented in terms of the sensuality, and on porn it's very X-rated. Doesn't really matter, it's still a performance, and if we don't get any other sex education, that's how we understand sex to be and look like. Then we go, I have to look like that. I have to have this persona, I have to have these genitals, and I certainly have to have sex in this stylistic manner where we get together and we rip our clothes off and we kiss and there's lots of passion, and then And then maybe we play with some body parts for a few moments, maybe a few minutes if we're lucky. And then we get to the meat and potatoes where our genitals get together and they do their frictional dance and they have their orgasm. And if it's in Hollywood, it's at the same time. Boom, bada swing. We are successful in our goal of having a passionate encounter, exponentially accelerated towards the top orgasm. That is not how sex looks. Maybe in the beginning of a relationship when there's courtship and there is a lot of passion, and good for you, but that's time limited. And if you're in a longer term relationship or you're somebody you don't even know that well, it might not get executed that way. Oftentimes it doesn't get executed that way. One, passion is not something that we can depend on just because there's somebody new. Passion is something we have to be responsible for and extract from our outer environment and bring into our system so that we can feed it back to our partner. So we have to be responsible and take ownership for our passion. That's one. Two, not all clothes just rip off like that. And sometimes you like your clothes and you don't want them to be ripped. Just saying. Three, arousal is not an exponential acceleration towards orgasm. Arousal is an ebb and a flow, right? We ebb and we flow. We do foreplay. We might give more pleasure to one person while the other person has a waning of their arousal, and then we trade roles, and then that person has more waxing of their arousal, and then we dance with it, right? It's not this stair-step acceleration or escalator towards the top. It's more like the waves of the ocean. They flow in, they flow out. That is how arousal works. Maybe your erection totally disappears, and then we bring it back. That's totally fine. Maybe a woman's lubrication is like, kind of elusive, don't know where it is. That's okay. Let's do some more foreplay. Let's not do Hollywood foreplay for a few minutes. Let's do real foreplay in terms of what we really need for at least 20 minutes. Right? That's what we want. We need to get high levels of arousal before we even bring genital to genital in contact to do their dance. If you're even doing that, right? Don't even think about genitals together doing their dance until you have done lots and lots of foreplay and there is lots and lots of arousal with the ebb and flow of arousal. Because our goal is not necessarily the orgasm. Let that be the byproduct. If we're feeling like we're in this performance, guess what? We're going to be very anxious. We're going to be very stressed. We're not going to accomplish our mission of relaxing. And we're going to feel bad about ourselves if we can't get to our goal. We're going to go, I failed. I'm a terrible lover. I lost my erection. I can't get aroused enough. I can't get lubricated enough. I can't bring my partner to a pleasurable place of orgasm. And then if we feel like we failed, we don't want to do it again. Or if we do it again, we get very anxious about doing it again. This is the performance-oriented model of sex. So I want to introduce it to you, the pleasure-oriented model of sex, because it's really good for taking away the stress, taking away the pressure, taking away the performance. I need a pen. Hold on. I'm getting a pen. Okay. Here we are. My educational chalkboard. I call this pleasure-oriented model my Cheesecake of Pleasure. I came up with this many years ago because I like cheesecake. So imagine you are at the supermarket and you are shopping in the dessert aisle and you see those frozen cheesecake platters with the different slices of cheesecake. If you haven't seen those, go shopping. Here we are. Different flavors of cheesecake. Maybe there's Oreo, turtle fudge, blueberry, peanut butter, blah, blah, blah. You get the point? You get the metaphor? Great. Now, what do we do with this? What we do with this is we fill in the blank with pleasurable activities. So let's say you really love intercourse. Fine, wonderful. Add that in. Intercourse totally can be a piece of cheesecake. Let's say you love oral sex. Oral sex can be its own piece of mutually exclusive cheesecake, a standalone activity or in combination. Let's say you just love kissing, and that's all you have bandwidth for. Hot, passionate kissing or relaxed, lazy kissing. This can be a very lazy cheesecake. Remember, we're going for lazy sex over the holidays because that's what's helpful in terms of getting the stress out. Let's say you like bondage. As the submissive person receiving an experience, we surrender and we receive, and it could be very pleasurable to have that experience. Okay, let's say you like anal sex. Let's say you like closing your eyes and picking one of these flavors out, and it says toy play. And here we are in Adam and Eve, so hopefully you're a good shopper, and if you're not, it's the holiday, so go shopping and bolster your toy box. Let's say you like warm showers, and it's a good way to wash off the stress. It's also a good place to find some privacy, so you can have a sensual shower by yourself or with a partner. Either way, if you don't have a partner, have a sensual shower with yourself. And if you have a partner and you're still stressed out, you can still have a sensual shower by yourself. By the way, just because we're in a relationship doesn't mean the relationship with ourselves stops. We still need to be in relationship with ourselves. I ate food before I met my husband. I still eat food by myself even when my husband's around. The food's better because he's a great cook, but the point is the relationship with ourselves doesn't stop because we are in relationship with other. Okay, one more piece of cheesecake. You can have 2 flavors, you can have 20 flavors. It doesn't really matter. The idea is that you fill in your cheesecake with lots of fun flavors. This one honestly could be naked cuddling. I'm giving you a wide array of options because here's the point, right? This is our pleasure-oriented cheesecake, that each piece is mutually exclusive. You might have a piece of cheesecake and go, that was wonderful and delicious. I'm going back to the fridge to get another piece and another piece. And you end up eating your entire cheesecake. Wonderful. Have a great time eating your entire cheesecake. The idea here is you're doing it from a place of pleasure, not for the performance. And by the way, partner A may be having a pleasure level of like 8 or 9, and they're having a wonderful time, and the other person is having pleasure, but maybe it's like a 3. That's okay. Your pleasure number doesn't have to be the same. You can have different pleasure numbers as long as you're both enjoying the pleasure and you're both consenting that you like the activities. Partner A is like, I love sensual showers, and partner B is like, not for me, never, ever. Doesn't go on the cheesecake. Okay, let's talk about one more piece for lazy sex. Lazy sex may mean you get really creative with your cheesecake. Okay, cheesecake. I have divided my cheesecake into 3 different categories. I've got physical, sensual, and sexual. This is how I want you to think about these categories. Physical are really the activities that are PG. Maybe they are kissing, cuddles with clothes on, holding hands, kissing the neck, nibbling on the ears, flirting, sending text messages that are PG, not naked ones, right? PG stuff. PG stuff to just have a light, fun interaction that's sort of skirting on the sensual, which, as we're gonna guess, is PG-13. PG-13 means some clothes come off. Maybe all our clothes come off, or maybe some of our clothes come off. If you cuddled here with clothes on, maybe you cuddle here with clothes off. If you take a shower here, maybe here you take a shower, soaping up. This is just soaping up your bodies. This includes the genitals. Different ways to differentiate it. Be creative with this. There's no right or wrong on how you categorize the PG versus the PG-13. And then we have R. So our sexual category are the R is the rated R. These are the things where the genitals are really involved, or are more hot erogenous zones like the nipples and the butt and the anus. These erogenous zones are more involved. So they're really kicking up the arousal level. So that's how you differentiate here. Now use cheesecake, right? We're still doing cheesecake. You might have 5 flavors of cheesecake that go here. Again, you might have cuddles, kissing, neck nibbles, etc. Over here, you might have sensual showers, you might have naked cuddling, you might have mutual self-pleasure. You decide. And then here on sexual, you might have swinging from the chandeliers. You might have sex in the car. You might have just lazy sex where, again, you're spooning, or you're doing the scissor position, or you're doing lazier person, more stressed out person on bottom, so they can just relax and surrender, right? You decide here. But how good to go into the holidays, or just in general, guys. This is a good tool to have in general, so that if you're feeling stressed out, you're like, you know what? I'm not going to say no to connecting with you. I'm going to say yes. Can we start here? Maybe this is all I have capacity for, and this feels really yummy and actually helps relax me. And maybe it's contagious and it helps us go to this piece of cheesecake or to this section of cheesecake. And then we might even want to go to this section of cheesecake. But it helps us say yes to more things that actually helps us relax and feel good and feel connected. So, again, the idea is not to be in our performance-oriented modality, either thinking or behaving. We want cheesecake, lots of flavors, lots of different distinctions of cheesecake, so that we can really have a full toolbox of useful things to combat stress and use sex as a preventive medicine or in the moment. So, any questions at this point? I see lots of hellos and lots of waves, but I don't see questions. Here's what we do on our Adam and Eve team. If you have questions and you're not here live, or even if you don't watch this, but you hear about it and someone says, hey, Adam and Eve's a great company where you can get toys and get education and get your questions answered, that's right. There's a whole team of really knowledgeable people to answer your questions. We do a deep dive into this deeper episode twice a month on Fridays around 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, right here on Instagram Live TV. If this is too long of an episode, or you just want to keep up with us on our Instagram channel, we also have Savvy Sex in 60 Seconds, which is really more like 90 seconds, but we give a short little tidbit of sex education that helps our deeper episode and give us a little foreplay for it, but also gives you a little piece of sex education that's easy to swallow, easy to understand and digest, and off you go for the day. Thanks for listening. We will catch you here in 2 weeks again, where we will continue our conversation on sex and stress and yummy, exciting things to do to feel relaxed and surrender into our pleasurable experience. Thanks for having us. Bye-bye.